What if the biggest health threat in your kitchen isn't the sugar in your cereal or the oil in your fryer, but the meats you trust most? In early 2025, the American Heart Association and World Health Organization issued updated warnings linking specific types of processed meats to deadly diseases like colorectal cancer and congestive heart failure, with some of the highest risk products found on the shelves at Costco. A shocking April 2025 audit from the Food Safety and Additive Reform Project flagged 6 Kirkland-labeled meats as major contributors to sodium overload, carcinogenic nitrites, and hidden chemical preservatives. The meats we turn to for budget, convenience, and comfort may be the very ones quietly accelerating disease in millions of older Americans. When one sausage link delivers more salt than a bag of chips and a single dinner pushes your weekly cancer risk, you've got to ask, are we eating to live or living to get sick? This is the Downturn Report, where the truth gets personal. And today we're pulling back the shrink wrap on 6 Costco meats that may be putting your heart and your health in the crosshairs. Number 1. Kirkland Signature Bacon. You'd think danger would come in a skull and crossbones bottle, not wrapped in vacuum-sealed plastic with the friendly red Kirkland label smiling back at you. But that's the thing about modern food. Sometimes the biggest threats wear the friendliest faces. Kirkland Signature Bacon is a staple in many American homes because of its affordability, satisfying, and dependability. A big pack, a small price, and a flavor that hits just right next to scrambled eggs and a side of toast. That slice of comfort feels like the Sunday mornings we used to have with the radio on and grease crackling in the pan. But what if what we're really frying isn't bacon but our own health? In early 2025, the World Health Organization once again sounded the alarm on processed meats, specifically those cured with sodium nitrite. The data isn't new, but it's getting harder to ignore. Regular consumption of these meats has been conclusively tied to a higher risk of colorectal cancer. And take a guess what makes bacon worse than many other meats? When you toss it into a hot pan and crisp it up, just the way we like it, it forms nitrosamines, which means compounds that the European Food Safety Authority declared genotoxic in April 2025. So it means these chemicals can damage your DNA. Now think about that the next time you're flipping those sizzling strips. And which brand showed some of the highest levels of nitrites per serving in independent tests? You knew it, Kirkland Signature. Costco may sell in bulk, but they're also serving danger by the pound. That pretty pink color and long shelf life don't come for free. They're the product of a heavy mix of sodium nitrite and sodium erythorbate. These curing agents might keep bacon from turning gray, but once they hit heat, they morph into N-nitroso compounds. That's not a seasoning. It's what the International Agency for Research on Cancer labels a probable human carcinogen. While European countries have been tightening the leash by banning or limiting nitrites in processed meats since 2024, the United States has kept the gates wide open, and Costco, always focused on keeping costs down and shelves stocked, isn't pulling back. So while folks in Germany are tossing nitrite-free bratwurst on the grill, we're still crisping up chemically treated bacon and calling it breakfast. But cancer isn't the only concern on the plate. The American Heart Association dropped another bombshell on March 2025, pointing out that regular intake of processed meats also ramps up your risk of heart disease. For anyone over 55, it's like adding a ticking clock to your breakfast plate. Just 2 slices of Kirkland Signature Bacon pack more than 400 milligrams of sodium. That's well above what national brands deliver. Your taste buds may be thrilled, but your arteries are waving the white flag. Now let's talk about images. Costco has long painted itself as the good guy in the big box game, with fair wages, good benefits, and happy customers. But the image only goes so far. When a brand ignores global warnings and keeps pushing meat loaded with controversial additives, it feels like betrayal. It's not the bacon that's seasoned best here, it's the public relations campaign. So what can you do if you're not ready to say goodbye to bacon entirely? Here's the good news. You've got options that don't involve playing Russian roulette with your colon. Seek out bacon from local butchers who cure their meat the old-fashioned way with sea salt or celery powder, not a lab's worth of chemicals. Brands like Applegate now offer turkey or pork bacon cured without synthetic nitrites, responding to mounting pressure from European regulators. Or if you've got the time and a little curiosity, you can try making your own. Pork belly, brown sugar, salt, and a smoker. See, it's simpler than it sounds, and the payoff is a peace of mind. At the end of the day, it's not just about what tastes good on the skillet. It's what you're willing to accept from the companies you trust. When Europe can say, no more, maybe it's time we stop mistaking danger for tradition. Number 2. Costco Rotisserie Chicken. It's the kind of deal that makes you pause mid-aisle and say, now that's a steal. For just under $5, you get a whole cooked chicken, hot, juicy, and ready to serve. Smells like dinner, feels like home, and it fits into nearly any budget, especially when everything else seems to be rising faster than your last Social Security check. That familiar golden bird spinning under heat lamps like some supermarket trophy has earned its place in countless American kitchens. But sometimes what looks like a golden goose is really a canary in the coal mine. Let's start with what's hiding under the skin. In February 2025, Costco released updated nutrition info revealing that just one 3-ounce portion of its rotisserie chicken contains over 460 milligrams of sodium, and that's without counting the crispy skin everyone loves. One entire bird is more than 1,800 milligrams. That's more sodium than some folks should eat in a whole day, packed into one healthy dinner. And this isn't just about numbers on a label. In March 2025, the American Heart Association issued a sobering update. Even modest sodium excess dramatically increases heart disease risk for older people. So the question is, how many quick dinners does it take before your blood pressure catches up? But the salt is only the surface scratch. The real concern lies in what's pumped into the chicken before it even hits the rotisserie. Costco injects its birds with a phosphate-based solution, specifically sodium phosphate, to make them stay plump and moist longer. Sounds harmless? Not quite. A study published in January 2025 by the Journal of Renal Nutrition uncovered a troubling link. Synthetic phosphates, like the ones found in processed poultry, significantly raise the risk of heart disease and early death for people with kidney conditions. And older adults are especially vulnerable since their kidneys naturally lose function over time. These phosphates don't just pass through the body, they also hang around, building up in arteries like slow-moving cement. Now here's the frustrating part. Costco doesn't tell you how much phosphate they use. Their packaging lists it quietly among the ingredients, but doesn't disclose the dosage. Yet an independent analysis cited by the Nutrition Policy Institute in April 2024 found that phosphate levels in enhanced poultry products often exceed what's considered safe. In Europe, that's a red flag. France and Norway moved to ban phosphate injections in any chicken labeled natural by the end of 2024, arguing that shoppers were being misled. But here in the US, we're still tossing them into our carts like they're farm fresh. And that's the genius of it, how ordinary it all looks. Just a roasted chicken in a black tray, whispering, "Dinner's done." But beneath that homey image is a cocktail of preservatives, emulsifiers, and salt that hits aging hearts and kidneys the hardest. It creeps in slowly, showing up not on the receipt, but in medical bills, prescriptions, and quiet worry. Still, nobody's saying you have to break up with chicken, just break up with the illusion. Head to a local butcher or a health-conscious store like Sprouts or Natural Grocers. Many now offer additive-free rotisserie birds. Or better yet, roast your own. A whole chicken, some olive oil, garlic, lemon, and thyme, with 90 minutes in the oven and no injections, no question marks. And if standing at the stove isn't an option, look for frozen organic chicken from brands like Bell and Evans or Mary's Free Range. These companies steer clear of phosphate solutions and keep sodium levels low. You can cook once, portion it out, and freeze the rest. When a bird stays at $4.99 while everything else goes up, it's worth asking what's really being sacrificed to keep that price low. If the deal cost you your health, is it still a deal? Next time that chicken calls your name, ask yourself, are you just picking up dinner or picking up the tab for a much bigger problem? Number 3. Costco Ground Beef Value Pack. It sits in the refrigerated section like a brick of promise. 4 to 5 pounds of ground beef, neatly packed and ready to feed the whole family. On the surface, it feels like the answer to every working class prayer. One big package, dozens of meals, endless possibilities. Chili on Sunday, spaghetti on Tuesday, meatloaf leftovers by Thursday. For folks living on a fixed check or stretching retirement dollars across rising bills, this meat bundle from Costco seems like a gift wrapped in plastic. But here's the thing, not everything wrapped tight is clean inside. Sometimes what's sealed up tight in plastic ought to come with a warning label, or a prayer, because behind the generous bulk and the glossy value sticker is a web of risk that most folks never get to see. In February 2025, the nonprofit Food Chain Integrity Project ran independent tests on Costco's generic ground beef value packs. The results? Every sample contained beef from multiple sources scattered across different states. with no clear line of traceability. In layman's terms, they can't tell you where your meat came from, and they definitely can't promise it came from one cow. 2 out of 6 samples tested positive for low but measurable traces of E. coli O157:H7 and Salmonella. That's not just a little extra flavor, that's a roulette wheel with bacteria on every spin. The USDA's own recall logs from the first quarter of 2025 make the problem even more disturbing. Over 9 million pounds of beef were pulled from shelves nationwide due to E. coli outbreaks traced back to the same slaughterhouses that happened to supply Costco. Now, Costco's name wasn't stamped on the recall notice, but let's be honest, if the water comes from the same poisoned well, does the brand on the bucket really matter? Think freezing keeps you safe? Think again. According to a white paper from the Centers for Science and the Public Interest published in March 2025, E. coli bacteria can survive deep freeze temperatures and reawaken once thawed. And in real homes, where kitchen thermometers are rare and meat gets thawed on the counter, that's a ticking time bomb, especially when folks don't even know what they're really dealing with inside that giant meat brick. The label might read USDA choice or 80/20, but that's marketing fluff. It doesn't tell you that your burger may be made from scraps collected from 100 different animals. In smaller shops, a pound of beef usually comes from one cow. At Costco, it could be a Frankenstein mix of flesh from industrial feedlots across the Midwest. When your dinner comes from everywhere, it might end up taking you somewhere you don't want to go, like the ER. Then there's the dark underbelly most folks don't talk about, the ethics. Much of Costco's ground beef comes from processing giants like Tyson and Cargill, both of which were spotlighted in a July 2025 expose by the Human Rights Food Coalition for poor labor conditions and inhumane treatment of animals. So even if your burger's fully cooked, the morals behind it might still be raw and bleeding. But you've got options. Instead of rolling the dice with a 5-pound mystery meat block, ask your local butcher for single-source ground beef. You'll pay a little more, but you'll know where it came from, sometimes even the name of the farm. If the butcher's not in your budget, stores like Aldi and Sprouts have started selling cleaner label grass-fed beef, often in smaller, affordable portions, thanks to new pressure from European-style labeling laws passed in 2025. Or take matters into your own hands. Buy a roast or a chuck cut, toss it in your food processor, and make your own ground beef. It's a bit of extra work, but you get full control over what goes in and what stays out. Because next time you reach for that Costco value pack, you should be asking yourself, are you feeding your family or feeding a system that gambles with safety to protect profits? The price tag may say deal, but the part they don't print, that's where the real cost hides. Number 4. Costco pork ribs with BBQ glaze. They sit there gleaming under warehouse lights, packed in shiny plastic like little barbecue trophies. Costco's pork ribs with barbecue glaze. One look and you're already halfway to heating the oven. They promise backyard nostalgia, the kind of sticky, smoky, finger-licking comfort that makes you forget your electric bill just went up again. For folks living paycheck to paycheck or piecing together retirement dollars, it seems like a treat. Something special without the price tag of a restaurant. No grill needed, no prep work. Just pop, heat, and dig in. But what if what you're really heating up is a quiet health crisis smothered in molasses and lies? A breakdown released by the Food Label Transparency Alliance in May 2025 dropped a truth bomb. One serving of these ribs contains over 34 grams of sugar. That's more than a candy bar. Let that sink in. These ribs have nearly 3 times the recommended daily sugar intake for adults with heart issues. And the sugar doesn't just come from grandma's brown sugar and molasses. It's a cocktail of high fructose corn syrup and caramel coloring. In the European Union's updated 2025 food regulations, both are now flagged as avoidable additives. Yet here they are, sweet-talking your taste buds while blindsiding your blood pressure, and sugar's just half the trouble. Each 4-ounce serving also packs over 900 milligrams of sodium. That's nearly 40% of the daily max for anyone over 50. And let's be honest, who eats just 4 ounces of ribs? You double that without blinking. It's a stealth attack, the kind that doesn't announce itself in headlines, but creeps in through the side door of your arteries and sets up shop in your blood pressure monitor. But here's the part that should really make your jaw drop. These ribs contain sodium nitrite. The same stuff used to preserve hot dogs and cured meats. It keeps the meat looking rosy and shelf-ready. But when reheated, especially in ovens or microwaves, sodium nitrite can react with natural proteins to form nitrosamines. which the World Health Organization classifies as probable human carcinogens. That means your cozy family dinner could be simmering up cancer risks alongside the mashed potatoes. And let's not ignore the packaging game. These ribs sit in the deli section near rotisserie chickens and bakery items, looking homemade, innocent, and simple. But dig into the ingredient list and you'll find a lab's worth of preservatives, artificial smoke flavor, stabilizers, and additives built for warehouse efficiency, not for your kitchen table. It's a bait and switch. The ribs whisper comfort, but they deliver a chemical cocktail that would make a chemist raise an eyebrow. Even the sourcing leaves a sour taste. Investigations by the group Ethics in Agribusiness in June 2025 uncovered that several pork suppliers tied to Costco's supply chain were using cruel confinement systems, overusing antibiotics, and operating in unsanitary conditions, especially in factory farms in North Carolina and Iowa. So while you're thinking about dinner, someone else is thinking about profit and the pigs. They don't get a say in the matter. Still, it doesn't mean you have to give up on ribs. If you're craving the flavor but not the chemicals, try buying raw, unseasoned ribs from a local butcher or from stores like Fresh Thyme or Sprouts. Season them yourself, it's easier than you think. A quick homemade glaze with tomato paste, a little honey or maple syrup, garlic, vinegar, and spices gives you control over what goes in and what doesn't. No nitrites, no syrupy traps, no guessing games. Or try something different but still delicious. Bone-in chicken thighs with homemade rubs or plant-based ribs made from jackfruit or roasted cauliflower. Seniors cooking clubs in towns across the Midwest have already embraced these swaps for their flavor and heart-friendliness. After all, who said comfort food had to come with consequences? Next time you see that plastic-wrapped rib rack at Costco, take a moment. You're not just buying dinner, you're buying into a decision. Ask yourself, is it still a treat? If what's hiding under the glaze might cost you your health? Number 5. Costco Meatballs and marinara sauce. They're small, tidy, and frozen solid, but don't let their quiet presence fool you. Tucked next to the pizzas and burritos in the Costco freezer aisle, Kirkland's meatballs and marinara sauce look like a gift to tired hands and worn-out wallets. Just heat them up, ladle over some noodles, and dinner is served. No chopping, no splattering sauce, no complaints from the grandkids. For caregivers, older couples, and folks who need every dollar to stretch like elastic, it feels like a smart shortcut. But what if that shortcut is quietly paving a road to disaster, not in your oven, but in your bloodstream? In April 2025, the Clean Food Project released its ingredient transparency audit, and what they found inside those little meatballs is enough to make anyone lose their appetite. Each serving comes loaded with over 800 milligrams of sodium, 12 grams of saturated fat, and a laundry list of ingredients most home cooks wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. The biggest red flag? BHA, butylated hydroxyanisole, a synthetic preservative used to extend shelf life. It might help those meatballs stay fresh on the shelf, but according to the National Institutes of Health, it's reasonably anticipated to be a human carcinogen. That's not internet gossip, that's the government's own warning, backed up again in January 2025 by the European Chemicals Agency. They even called for mandatory warning labels after new animal trials showed links to tumor growth. But we're not just talking about cancer risks here. In February 2025, the American College of Cardiology sounded the alarm on foods just like this. Ultra-processed, high in salt and saturated fat, especially dangerous for people over 60. They linked these foods to increased rates of congestive heart failure and stroke. And yet these meatballs are marketed like they're cozy, family-friendly, and microwave safe. Just pop them in, and you'll never think twice until your next doctor's visit says otherwise. Dig into the ingredient list, and you'll find more red flags than real food. There's mechanically separated meat, soy protein concentrate, artificial garlic flavoring, and a marinara sauce thickened with corn syrup solids and modified starch. Not exactly Nana's secret recipe. While none of these things are banned in the United States, they are discouraged, even restricted, across Europe under the 2025 Clean Labeling Directive. But here, they're rolled up and frozen by the dozen. And it doesn't end at the ingredient panel. In March 2025, a chilling undercover report by Eyes on Industry tracked one of Costco's major beef suppliers back to a Nebraska facility, the very one listed on Kirkland's shipping boxes. What they found? Overcrowded feedlots, sick cattle limping through mud, and undertrained workers handling antibiotics like they were candy. Costco wasn't caught in the act, but they were named as a key client, keeping the supplier's operations humming. That's not just an ethical gray area, that's willful blindness dressed in shrink wrap. This kind of hidden cost, health, ethics, and transparency is what makes these meatballs harder to swallow. When the label says Kirkland, it's supposed to mean something, but when you peel back the brand and look at the reality, what you're getting is far from safe, clean, or honest. And for older Americans raised to trust what's on the label, that betrayal cuts deep. But here's the silver lining: you don't have to give up meatballs, you just have to take back control. Making your own isn't as intimidating as it sounds. Mix lean ground turkey with oats, onion, garlic, and egg, roll them up, and bake. Freeze the extras and you've got a week's worth of heart-friendly meals. If time's tight, check your local Sprouts or natural grocers. Many now carry reduced sodium, BHA-free meatballs made from single-source meat you can trace back to the farm. And if you're leaning plant-based, lentil, mushroom, or bean-based meatballs have come a long way. High in protein, easy on the arteries, and free from synthetic preservatives. Brands like the Better Bean Company or Good & Gather make them freezer-ready, and yes, they might cost a bit more, but they won't come with a side of tumor risk. Because when it comes to food, especially at this stage in life, it's not just about what fills your plate, it's about what you're inviting into your body. So next time you pick up that frozen box of Kirkland meatballs, ask yourself, is this dinner or a disguised deal with the devil? Number 6. Costco chicken sausages. They sit on shelves posing as the healthier option, slim, clean, and wrapped in the comforting Kirkland signature label that so many of us have come to trust. You toss them in the cart thinking you're making a better choice. After all, they're not pork, they're not beef, they're chicken. And chicken is supposed to be the good guy, right? Low in fat, high in protein, easy on the heart. You grill them at Sunday lunch, chop them into breakfast skillets, or portion them out in meal prep containers, thinking you've dodged a health bullet. But behind the plastic packaging and feel-good branding lies a truth that's hard to chew. Costco's chicken sausages aren't nearly as wholesome as they appear. In April 2025, the Food Safety and Additive Reform Project released a nutrition audit that turned heads, or at least should have. Costco's Kirkland signature chicken sausages contain sodium levels upwards of 700 milligrams per link, with some varieties hitting nearly 800. That's more salt than you'd get in an entire serving of chips, packed into just one sausage. For folks over 60 struggling with high blood pressure or kidney concerns, that's not just too much. That's a health landmine dressed in grill marks. And salt is only the tip of the problem. Those same sausages contain a slurry of synthetic additives. Potassium lactate, sodium diacetate, modified food starch, all designed to make the product last longer, ship farther, and stay safe on the shelf. But safe for who? According to a European Food Safety Authority report from February 2025, potassium lactate can disrupt gut health in older adults, potentially triggering bloating, inflammation, and even weakening your natural resistance to antibiotics. That's not something you'll read on the front of the label, but it's something your gut will remember. What makes it worse is the way these sausages are marketed. Natural, minimally processed, wholesome. But let's be real. These links are churned through industrial grinders, emulsified, flash frozen, and stuffed with additives your grandmother wouldn't recognize. Calling them natural is like slapping a fruit sticker on a candy bar and pretending it came from a tree. And let's not ignore where this meat comes from. A May 2025 expose by Humane Supply Watch revealed serious red flags at one of Costco's contracted poultry processors. Underpaid workers, overworked animals, and overcrowded barns where birds couldn't even stand upright. These cramped conditions often force producers to rely on antibiotics just to keep the flock from collapsing, and guess where traces of those end up? Right back in your heart-healthy chicken sausage. Now here's the part that hits hardest. Older shoppers aren't buying these sausages because they love factory food. They're buying them because they believe the story. Because the word chicken sounds safer. Because the packaging says protein packed and smart choice. But when the food designed to support your health is actually chipping away at it, the betrayal runs deep. Still, giving up on convenience doesn't mean giving up on flavor. Brands like Belinsky's and Applegate now offer organic chicken sausages with no added nitrites, low sodium, and real ingredients. No science fair experiments required. You'll find them at natural grocers, Whole Foods, or even online at Thrive Market. Or go even simpler, make your own. Mix ground chicken with garlic, fennel, a pinch of salt, and some smoked paprika. Form into patties or logs, cook in batches, and freeze. No mystery meat, no additives, just clean, real food made with your own hands. Because when the sausage that's supposed to help your heart might actually be hurting, the question isn't whether you should keep eating it. The question is, how long are we going to keep trusting labels that talk big and deliver little? The truth is hard to swallow, but it's better than poison. Subscribe now to uncover what they're hiding in your food.
Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our daily content. Now feel free to check out some of our newest and best videos currently showing on the screen. Goodbye, and see you in the next video.